Welcome to Sports Zone March Madness coverage presented by SBS-TV News. I'm your host, Alonso Trana.
And I'm Elijah Young.
This past weekend, we had a slate of games. Starting off, the first seed Michigan Wolverines defeat 9 seed St. Louis 95-72. The Wolverines pull away in the second half after a valiant St. Louis effort. They now play 4 seed Alabama. Moving on to Michigan State, the Spartans narrowly defeated 6 seed Louisville 77-69. The Spartans now face the former back-to-back champions, the 2 seed UConn Huskies. 1 seed Duke handles 9 seed TCU 81-58. After the Blue Devils struggle in the first half, they finish strong and now are ready to face a really hot St. John's team this Friday night. 1 seed Houston takes down 10 seed Texas A&M and runs them off the court, winning 88-57. This game was all wrapped up by halftime, and the Cougars move on to play Illinois. Texas stuns the Zags. The Longhorn dream is alive as Texas shocked the Zags on Saturday night. Texas now travels to San Jose to face off with 1 seed Purdue. Illinois dominates VCU 76-55. I guess we will not see a repeat of 2011. 4 seed Nebraska edges past 5 seed Vanderbilt in a thrilling 74-72 victory. The Cornhuskers make their first ever Sweet 16. However, the main story coming out of this game is Vanderbilt's near miracle shot at the end of the game. 4 seed Arkansas spoils a Cinderella run, defeating High Point. The Panthers put up an absolute dogfight, but it was not enough to defeat a talented Arkansas squad led by legendary head coach John Calipari. Now on to Eli Young.
Thank you, Alonso. On Sunday, we had some great matchups too. Starting off, 7 seed Miami faced 2 seed Purdue. Purdue was able to pull away 79-69. Next, we had Kentucky taking Iowa State. Iowa State handled business, winning 82-63. After that, we had St. John's versus Kansas. Maybe the best game in the tournament so far. Dylan Darling, with 3.2 seconds left, goes into the lane, layup, buzzer beater to win the game. Then we had Tennessee stunning Virginia, 79-72. Iowa absolutely stuns the whole world, shocking Florida, the number 1 seed, winning 73-72. Utah State fell to Arizona, the 1 seed, 78-66. UConn had a rough first half but was able to pull away against UCLA, 73-57. And last, Alabama handled business against Texas Tech, 90-65.
Now Eli and I will have your Sweet 16 predictions. Eli, what do we have in the East?
In the East, we have Duke facing St. John's and Michigan State facing UConn.
St. John's is looking really hot. That buzzer beater, I don't know. I believe in Pitino. I think they're going to beat Duke.
Rick Pitino is arguably the best coach in the whole tournament, and Duke is struggling right now. New coach, now Coach K is gone. It's a whole different era. It's not the same Duke. The old Duke would never struggle against 16 seed Siena. So I'm loving St. John's. And Dylan Darling, he's a darling in my heart.
Yep. Give me St. John's in that one. What's next?
Michigan State versus UConn.
That's a tough one. I honestly have faith in Tom Izzo, legendary head coach. I think the Spartans are going to pull it off, especially because UConn looked a little shaky against Furman, but Michigan State has looked pretty solid throughout the tournament.
Yes, I mean, I might be a little biased as a Michigan State fan myself, but I love Tom Izzo in this matchup. UConn struggled against Furman, struggled a lot against UCLA. They were able to pull away in that second half, but they're not looking very hot, especially since they lost in the Big East tournament. I love Michigan State in this matchup. Give me Tom Izzo versus Rick Pitino in one of the greatest coaching matchups you will ever see in the Elite Eight.
For sure, yes. What do we have in the South?
In the South, we have Iowa versus Nebraska kicking it off.
Oh, what a game. A rivalry matchup, a Big Ten rivalry matchup at that, in the Sweet 16 after Iowa pulled off a stunner over 1 seed Florida. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, give me Iowa. Iowa's hot. They just upset Florida. I know it's crazy. They're an 8 seed, but I love Iowa over Nebraska. Nebraska's not used to this. They are not ready for a Sweet 16 game. I mean, it's the first time they've ever won a game in the dance.
That's true, yes. That's going to be a very interesting game. I would look out for that one.
Next, we have Illinois versus Houston.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on Houston. They've kind of been cruising by and no one's really talking about them. I think the Cougars take this one.
I think both teams have kind of slid by, just dominating their games like they were supposed to. And I think it'll be a great game. I'm going to stick with the Big Ten because they're dominating this tournament so far. So give me Illinois to the Elite Eight. Now moving on to the West, we have Arizona versus Arkansas.
Arizona, Arkansas. I don't know. Arkansas's coming off a very gritty win over High Point. I mean, but it was like everyone expected them to get upset, and they kind of proved everyone wrong. Calipari's a legendary head coach, as we know. I'm going to take Arkansas in this one. I feel like Arizona, I don't know, I think Arkansas, they're coming off this win over High Point, I think they have the momentum to beat Arizona.
I actually love that pick too. Arkansas, I know they were supposed to beat the 12 seed, but High Point was a very, very good team. And Arizona didn't look very good against Utah State. I mean, they pulled off the win like they should, but it was kind of closer than people expected. But in the end, I'm still going to take the 1 seed Arizona. I think they will get it done in this matchup.
Yeah.
Next, we have Texas versus Purdue.
I mean, Texas is coming off a big win over Gonzaga, but I'm going to be honest, Gonzaga just seemed like one of those fraudulent 3 seeds, and Purdue looks really good. Purdue's, I don't see a world where Purdue loses this game, and I think Purdue's moving on to the Elite Eight.
I think the clock strikes midnight on the Cinderella story of 11 seed Texas. They don't have what it takes to take down Purdue. I mean, Braden Smith, arguably the best player in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, he's phenomenal. They just don't have what it takes to take down this caliber of a Purdue team. Give me Purdue.
Yeah, the Boilermakers are moving on.
Moving on to the Midwest, we have Michigan versus Alabama.
This game is big. I think for Alabama, this game is a winnable game. I think Alabama should go in with that mentality, but Michigan just looks too good. And I think the Big Ten's going to dominate this tournament. Give me Michigan in this one.
I think Alabama could pull off the upset, but I like Michigan, especially with Alabama missing Aiden Holloway for a suspension.
Yeah.
Don't know if we can say why. But, yeah, I think Michigan's just a really good team. They've struggled a little bit in the first half of their games, but that second half of Michigan, they're so good. I don't know if anybody will be able to beat them this tournament.
Yeah, it's going to look really rough.
The last game we have is Tennessee versus Iowa State.
This game, I'm going to be honest, I don't really know much about it, but I think I'm going to go with the safe pick and just pick the Cyclones. I don't know. Iowa State, they looked really, really shaky at the start with Kentucky, but they eventually settled in and they dominated the Wildcats. And I don't know, Tennessee, they kind of almost choked at the end against Virginia and they kind of just escaped with the win. So I feel like I'm very confident with Iowa State in this one.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's one of those teams in March that they're always fraudulent. Yeah. They're a fraudulent team in March. They can't get it done in March. I don't care what anyone says. Give me Iowa State, the Cyclones, the 2 seed. And I think Iowa State is slowly getting by. They're making themselves a title contender.
Yes.
After, I know a couple years ago, everyone picked them all the way, and they lost, and now people are mad at them. But I think this might be the year they could actually get it done. They're a serious contender.
I think a lot of teams are very serious contenders, and I think a lot of teams have lower seeds than they should. I mean, just remember a few years ago, 4-seed UConn won it, and nobody expected them to win it. So I think we could see teams like St. John's or Iowa State or Houston that no one's really talking about them right now, but they'll eventually maybe surprise us.
I mean, talking about lower seeds, we have St. John's at a 5 seed after winning the Big East.
Ridiculous.
2 wins over UConn this season. I believe that St. John's is closer to a 3 seed. And Michigan State dropping to a 3 seed after beating Purdue just 2 weeks ago. I think Michigan State should have been a 2 seed.
Yeah.
And if they won a game in the tournament, they could have played themselves into a 1 seed. Somehow got the 3 seed. I think both of those teams are grossly underseeded.
A lot of underrated teams in this tournament. I'm noticing that, yes.
Yeah.
Now moving on to the Elite Eight. Eli, what are our matchups?
In the East, I have St. John's versus Michigan State, the 5 versus the 3 seed. I love Michigan State in this. Love them.
I'm going to take St. John's. I got them winning it all. Patino, don't get me wrong, Izzo, Patino, legendary matchup, 2 national championship head coaches. I think it's going to go down to the wire. Honestly, I think it's going to go to overtime. But I think St. John's is going to edge out with that victory.
I think this game is going to come down to guard play. And Jeremy Fears is the best guard in the country. It's between him and Braden Smith. And he just came off a game with 16 assists. I think Michigan State's going to pull off this game, go to the Final Four. They call Tom Izzo Mr. March for a reason. But it's going to be a phenomenal game.
This game is huge. This is a potential game of the year matchup or tournament game of the year.
Legacy changing for both coaches.
Yeah. I think, though, I don't know. We'll see. Can the Godfather get it done? we'll have to wait for that.
The Godfather versus Mr. March. What a game. In the South, I have Iowa versus Illinois. I believe you had Nebraska versus Houston, though, right?
Nebraska, Houston. Yeah, I actually have Iowa. You made me think about that pick. I was unsure about it, but I don't know. It's a rivalry matchup, and it's like Nebraska, like you said, they've never really been in this spot. I think anything can happen, and with the big game they just came off with Florida, I think give me Iowa in this one, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So for your Elite Eight, do you have Houston going to the Final Four out of that, though?
I have Houston beating I think Houston's going to take over Illinois, but I think it's going to be a close matchup. But, yeah, I think the Cougars are going to move on. But I don't know. I think that's where their tournament ends. Who would they play in the Elite Eight?
They would then play Iowa in the Elite Eight.
Yeah. Houston, Iowa. I don't know. I want to take
I think the South is a toss-up. These four teams right here, it's hard to say.
It's a dogfight. I could see either any of these teams making it to the Final Four. I would say the safe pick would be Houston just because they've been there, they're experienced. Mm-hmm. They won the national championship last year. So just based off experience, I think I'll go with Houston.
I originally said Illinois over Houston, but I'm thinking about it more. This is just a dogfight region, and I think Houston, with their coaching, their play style, they play slow. They're a slow-paced team, and that Big Ten doesn't play well against a slow-paced team. So I think Houston's going to move on, go to the Final Four. That's the safe answer. But really, it's just a toss-up in the South region.
I will say, though, Iowa is a really good team in making the other team play at their pace. They did that to the Florida Gators, and that's what led to a victory for them. And I think if Iowa can do that with a lot of teams and make them play at their pace, Iowa's a very dangerous team, and we could potentially see them in the Final Four.
We could see the 9-seed Iowa in the Final Four. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Moving into the West, we have Arizona versus Arkansas and Texas versus Purdue. I have Arizona versus Purdue as my Elite Eight matchup. Moving into the West, we have Arizona versus Arkansas and Texas versus Purdue. I have Arizona versus Purdue as my Elite Eight matchup.
I got Arkansas, Purdue. I just feel like Arkansas, after coming off a really big win over High Point, where it seemed like High Point was our Cinderella story this year, Arkansas kind of ruins that party, and I feel like Calipari's just, he's going to lead them to another deep run. And I feel like Purdue, I don't know, Purdue, Arkansas, I think the Boilermakers are going to do it. Just like Braden Smith is looking really good. Purdue's looking really good. I think they're going to fly by Texas, and I think they're going to beat Arkansas. And Arizona, I don't know, they looked shaky against Utah State. I think it's going to be the SEC Big Ten matchup right there.
I have Arizona versus Purdue as my Elite Eight matchup. I believe Purdue is going to sneak by Arizona. I think it's going to be close, but Braden Smith, he's phenomenal player. The way they play basketball over there with Fletcher Lawyer just drilling threes, I love them. I love Purdue, the way they play. They could win it all, but I'm not going to say that because, Purdue, they can't quite, the lights get a little too bright for them.
I will say this, though. If Purdue can get over that championship hump, I think Matt Painter should, once he gets that, I think Matt Painter should be in the conversation of one of the top coaches in college basketball in history because, Purdue, Matt Painter is such a elite coach, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. He has Purdue as contenders year in and year out. Crazy stat. They haven't been lower than a 4 seed in like a decade, and I think that's unbelievable, and that just shows, such good work that he's done for that program.
If Matt Painter could pull off a championship win, I believe he gets into the talks of Tom Izzo and, maybe even to the Coach K talks. It's crazy.
Purdue's a really good team, so we'll have to see.
Yes, we'll have to see. Now moving on to the Midwest, we have Michigan taking on Alabama and Tennessee versus Iowa State. I have Michigan versus Iowa State as my Elite Eight matchup.
I've got Michigan, Iowa State as well. I think Michigan, they're just such a good team. Don't get me wrong, I think Alabama has a chance at winning that game. I think it's going to be a good matchup, but I feel like Michigan's just too good. And I feel like I could see that game being close at the beginning and just Michigan pulling away at the end. And I think the Wolverines move on in that one. And potentially we could see a Michigan-Purdue in the Final Four, which would be very interesting. And then as for the other game, I think Iowa State, they looked really dominant against Kentucky, and just because of that, I feel like not really a lot of people are talking them. People are kind of underestimating them, and I think the Cyclones are just going to move on.
Yes, I think this matchup between Iowa State and Michigan is great. But Michigan, I mean, all season, they were the #1 team in the country.
Yeah.
And they're playing like it again, especially in those second halves.
Yeah.
So I believe Michigan's going to make their way through into the Final Four. And I believe we're going to have 3 Big Ten teams in the Final Four. I mean, it's crazy to say, but I could see 3 Big Ten teams, potentially even 4 in this Final Four. I mean, they are.
It's going to be a Big Ten dominant tournament.
I mean, they're phenomenal this year.
I mean, keep in mind, Michigan, I feel like, is playing with the chip on its shoulder after their loss in the Big Ten championship to Purdue. And I'm going to be honest, if Michigan and Purdue face off in the Final Four, I don't see Purdue winning that. I think Michigan, when a team is playing with a chip on its shoulder and a team is playing with motivation and doubt against them, that's when a team is most dangerous. And I think Michigan's playing with that right now.
Yeah, I don't think Michigan loses to Purdue twice. I mean, it's tough to beat a team twice.
Yeah.
I don't think Purdue can do this to Michigan. This Michigan team is legit. And then on the other side, you know, in that Final Four matchup between Illinois, Houston, Iowa, Nebraska, one of those teams facing Michigan State is who I had. I think Michigan State, I think Izzo, if the winner of St. John's, Michigan State, I think they're going to the championship.
So there's a possibility we see a Michigan State national championship. Tom Izzo, Dusty May, what a matchup. I mean, as a Michigan State fan, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, in my original bracket, that's what I have, and thinking about that type of matchup gives me chills. I mean, it would be one of the greatest matchups we could possibly ever see in a championship. They've already faced off twice this year.
Yeah.
Both times, Michigan State, they kind of struggled towards the end of the game. But Tom Izzo, I mean, he doesn't lose to the same team 3 times. I don't think it happens. And I want to see Michigan State versus Michigan in that championship. Potentially, we could have one of the greatest championship games ever.
And that game would be huge, as we would be guaranteed a Big Ten champion, as we haven't seen a Big Ten champion in March Madness since 2000, and that was Michigan State.
And Tom Izzo, Mr. March is when he got that nickname in 2000. And, I think if a Big Ten team's going to get it done, I think it's going to be Izzo again. And I'm personally rooting for a Big Ten team to finally get it done in March.
We'll see, can Mr. March do it again 26 years later?
Well, that's a wrap for Sports Zone March Madness. We'll see you next week when we cover the matchups going into the Final Four. I'm Elijah Young.
And I'm Alonso Trana. Thank you for watching.